We're getting a behind-the-scenes look at Saturday Night Live's musical performances through the lens of Oscar-winning filmmaker, the one and only Questlove. His new documentary is called Ladies and Gentlemen, 50 Years of SNL Music. It's about the show's groundbreaking musical performances that helped define it. So he dove into more than, listen to this number, 900 episodes. He spoke to cast members like Eddie Murphy, Bowen, and musicians like Mick Jagger, who appeared in a very iconic sketch.
So I didn't like the ideas, we weren't getting anywhere, and then Jimmy said,
I got this other idea where I'm you in the mirror, and it's like, you know, why are you doing the show? You know, you've done it every decade.
and I said, that sounds great.
And I go, okay. And I left, I go, Lauren, good news, bad news? Mick wants to do the sketch. Bad news is it's the mirror, it's me in the mirror.
Here we are, Saturday Night Live again. I mean, what am I gonna do? I mean, I did this show in the 70s, I did it in the 80s, I did it in the 90s, and now I'm doing it in whatever you call this decade. I mean, think.
Come on, Mick, come on, you can do this, right?
What's funny about that is Lorne Michaels, the big cheese over there, didn't really want to do that skit, but it worked out well. It's iconic now. We're happy to say that Questlove joins us first on CBS Mornings. Really so good to see you.
How you doing?
How
are you? How you guys
doing?
doing?
Welcome.
This is the thing, I watched the documentary, and the first 7.5 minutes are nothing but musical montages. And I never realized that everybody always says, ladies and gentlemen, so-and-so and so-and-so.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize the role that music plays, because you think of SNL as a comedy show, but you made it you pointed out how crucial music is.
Well, initially, when Lauren pitched me this idea, like early 2021, I thought, okay, let me just curate maybe 50 of the best performances in the last 50 years. But once I got the master drive and just started watching the show obsessively, like I watched maybe 3 to 6 episodes a day.
Wow.
Whoa.
And I realized there were more iconic music sketches than there were like legendary performances.
Oh.
So then, kind of 4 months into it, that 7-minute montage you're speaking of took about 11 months to put together. Because it's like a DJ gig. It was like a DJ set,
Right.
It brought back so many memories to me, and I think that when people look at the show and you think about the music, at one point in the doc they said, sometimes we'll have on people you've never heard of before, but the producer says, but you will. Why do you think that music makes such a difference? What does it do for this show and the performers?
Music is, you know, a time capsule. It's a Polaroid shot, a moment in time. Like when you hear a classic song, you know exactly where you were the moment you heard it. And for a lot of music guests, getting that cosign on SNL is an opportunity. Great example is Adele's story. She just happened to be at the right place at the right time.
What do you mean?
Well, she was on an episode in which, if you remember when Tina Fey first started doing Sarah Palin, I can see Russell from my house. Like, everyone was tuning in for that moment.
Ratings were up.
Right, automatically, and it just so happens that Adele's debut was on that show.
Because we didn't know Adele.
No one knew
So
it
he can change, SNL can change your life really overnight, don't you think?
So she went, her album was like number 50 when she was on the show, and by the time she landed back in London the next day, her album was number 1 across the world.
Incredible.
Wow. Speaking of that, in 1981, the Funky 4+1, the first hip-hop performance on SNL. How important was that moment?
That was the very first time that America saw what hip-hop was. Like, SNL was the first platform to feature hip-hop. And Deborah Harry of Blondie, who at the time, you know, she had the song Rapture, which had a hip-hop verse in it, but, you know, she had been hanging with those pioneers in the Bronx, you know, Fat Five Freddy, all these people. And she saw like a commonality, like a woman leading a crew of MCs, and she took a liking to them. Like, they could have went with the most popular person, but the thing that makes SNL special is the first 10 years, people who are of quality. And then, of course, once they become the fiber 20 years later, it's, you know, the name is,
of course,
you know, you become the mainstream.
So speaking of special, Sly Stone is clearly very special to you. Another documentary of yours is going to premiere on Friday.
Sly Lives.
It's the first time that you're focusing a documentary on a single human being.
Well, I mean, I'm using the Sly and the Family Stone story to tell another story, which is, I mean, it's a full title, Sly Lives, The Burden of Black Genius. But oftentimes, I'm asked, like, why does this particular artist always show up late to shows? Why does this person sabotage? Like, the whole, you only had one job, just show up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And oftentimes it isn't like that. There's a lot of baggage that comes with success. And the question that I try to answer is success more paralyzing than the fear of failure?
Ooh.
And
that's heavy.
yeah, so thus,
and you're unpacking that.
It was such an emotional downer. I think that my happy thing went to SNL. Like I needed a project to not feel as depressed. So yeah, kind of both going hand in hand with each other.
What have you learned about yourself about when you do your documentary?
That's a good question, Gayle.
What have you learned about yourself, personally?
Doing these documentaries is more like it was therapeutic for me. It taught me how to be a better leader. Like I questioned, especially with the slide doc, like how do I handle self-sabotage? Because even like after winning the Oscar, I went through a period where that was almost me. Like, and I had to catch myself. Like, oh, you're sabotaging. You have a fear of crossing that. Because sometimes we feel guilty that you can't take your friends with you, or
survivor's remorse.
Yes, exactly. So,
or even imposter syndrome.
All those things come into play.
Yeah, powerful.
But
powerful
I feel like
stuff.
we're in a place now where we're actually ready to discuss, mental health and all those things.
I identify with all those things, and that's why I enjoy your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for your transparency
and
joining us right now.
Really
Very good.
Appreciate it.
Questlove, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, 50 Years of SNL Music can be streamed January 27th on NBC.